Dorothy, how you doing? Thank you so much for the repost. All right, this is a good concept. This is a scientific notation here. I'm not exactly sure what it represents, but for sure we've seen it in equations associated with relativity and with the theoretical physics. So that's pertinent for sure, and I think it's a really good solution. A couple of recommendations here. The first thing I see is that the I following the E, that visual substitution for the E, is followed by a cap I. So that wouldn't be relevant because that would be a lowercase I, right? It's the second letter in his last name, so that would be a lowercase I. I think that if you want to use this notation, my recommendation would be to go into Illustrator and kind of modify it a little bit. What you want to do is well, I'm going to recommend a different typeface, but what you want to do is you want to make sure that the stroke weight here is somewhat compatible with the stroke weight of the typeface, which it is here. We got the thin and the thick variations, but the thickest variation isn't as thick as the thickest portion of the typeface. So try to shoot for that in matching this symbol to the typeface that you choose. Now, this typeface, I think, is historically relevant. This is called Broadway. There's a couple of variations. One's called Playbill, and they were all around in like between 1910 and 1935 or so, and they were extensively used in the entertainment industry. So I see a little bit of a disconnect in using this for a scientific topic. For that reason, I recommend you use a different typeface. Research, just kind of do a little bit of research. Researching this typeface, Broadway, a little bit further, you would find out that this was used extensively in entertainment during the Art Deco period. Okay, so you're using the same typeface and almost the same size as for the subhead as you are for the headline. So we want to increase or improve or optimize our hierarchy by reducing the size of the subhead in relationship to the headline. It should be considerably smaller. Center alignment is, I don't recommend center alignment ever. The only time I've ever used center alignment is for wedding invitations and formal black tie events, invitations. The reason a lot of designers elect to stay away from center alignment is because it creates symmetry in the negative space, and we know that symmetry is not always the most interesting thing in terms of a visual engagement in graphic design. So my recommendation is not to use center alignment. The actual color palette itself is super, super monochromatic, lacking a lot of contrast. So this being a poster at 11 by 17, we know it's 11 by 17, we know it's a poster, therefore we know it's intended to be viewed at somewhat of a distance, being a poster. So my recommendation is to create enough contrast that these letters can be read from a distance. I'm not seeing the relationship here, the black on gray. I'm just not seeing the relevance of black on gray to the subject matter. Do you see what I'm saying? So you might reconsider your color palette, mainly because, I'm not saying that black and gray don't have anything to do with the subject matter. I'm just saying that it's not apparent at this time, and I think the fact that it's lacking contrast would outweigh the conceptual meaning for assigning this color palette. Do you see what I'm saying? In terms of proximity, the headline is really, really far from the subhead. So that indicates to the viewer that two things. Number one, that these are either A, not related, or B, not closely related. So I look at this and I almost see that it's two different subjects. Do you see what I'm saying? So you can rectify that issue by using typographic variety. In other words, use a different typeface for the subhead than to use for the headline. Okay, so let's keep on working here. But just those few comments I think are pretty relevant. So let's go ahead and work that out. And I'm looking forward to seeing the changes for this Sunday's submission. Then we can take that piece and we can kind of look at it and decide where we can go. The logical transformation from the front of the poster to the back of the poster based on the elements in the front of the poster. Okay, but work those details out. If you want to, if you have any questions at all, please let me know, and I'll be glad to make any necessary clarifications. Okay, really good concept, Dorothy. Thanks so much.